Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's broadcast of Esports Tower Rumble in Overwatch. We are broadcasting it here from the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena, and it is time to crown our Week 4 Overwatch champion. The Tornadoes have already locked in a spot in the Grand Finals, but who will join them? The Everest and the Riptides are here to kick things off tonight for a battle for the spot in the Grand Finals. I am your host, Brenner Barrett, and join with me to call all of the action is Colby D'Angelo Alloway. And so with these players being in kind of a chaotic spot of jumping back between Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 1 with the beta being active right now, what are you hoping to see from these players now returning to Overwatch 1 for the Grand Finals?
So Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 1 are very, very different games, as I'm sure everybody that's played the two of them is aware. So the main thing with Overwatch 2 is it's very flanky, it's very, everybody's off doing their own individual thing, and sometimes you come together for one big play. And the biggest change is supports have to be much more careful because there's a lot less peel for them. I mean, we've talked about it before. The lack of that off tank really takes away a lot of peel for supports, so it's either just your off support, ideally a Lucio or a Brig, peeling for your main support, and there's nobody else to do that. So in Overwatch 1, I expect supports to be able to be a little bit more comfortable, right? You don't necessarily get punished for your mistakes as hard because there's lots of different people that are there to support you, and it's not just like you relying on your own individual ability.
Yeah, you have someone to support the supports every once in a while, which is a nice change of pace. But also, a lot of these, we have a ton of things going on for tonight. We have the semifinals to see who is going to join the Grand Finals. Then we have the Grand Finals themselves. And then afterwards, we're not even done with that because we have a show match with the returning of two original Esports Tower teams. Because since a huge explosion in Overwatch has come in, there's been the huge 4 new teams, as we can see here, with the Wolves, the Everest that we all know, the Cyclones, Tornadoes, and the Riptides. But with this best of one show match coming up, we're actually going to have the return of both the Fire Islands and the Monsoons, the two teams that we have not seen in a long time, but they're coming back just for a show match tonight, so you want to stick around and see that go down. But as we get ready to jump into our matchup tonight of the Everest taking on the Riptides in the semifinals, they're going to need all the help they can get. We can give it to them through Doc's Keys of the Game in Overwatch. That's to never take a fair fight. But what does that mean? To take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared. And of course, tempo, tempo, tempo. These are presented to us by Esports Tower, where you can scroll pro advice at esportstower.com, improve your game sense, improve your team play, and improve your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and professional coaches to help you rank up. We are ready to jump into our matchup, kicking tonight off with a best of 3 with the Everest taking on the Riptides, with map number 1 being Ilios, a map that we don't all see too often for being the first of a control map.
So we typically see a lot of Roadhog, especially on that well, and it actually looks like we're opening up on Ruins, and we see that Widowmaker. We see Panda Squad and Illusion on that Widowmaker duel. Widowmaker duels are one of my favorite things to witness in Overwatch, and Ruins is a great map for them as we set up, but those balls are going to be looking to be after that Widowmaker. So it'll be up to the Mercy and the Zenyatta to support.
Yeah, well, we get ready to kick off the night with the final group stage game of Week 4. The Everest and the Riptides face off with the winner heading on to the Grand Finals to face the Tornadoes. And as you already walked through that team comp, even the Mercy to maybe even pocket the Widow to try to just get those extra early picks is going to be huge, with main heals already going on and bold. So that's that wombo combo already down, even getting aggressive D-mounting Panda Squad from that high ground. ALW with a triple so early on. Huge plays coming out for the Everests.
I think ALW was able to get in a position where the Riptides weren't ready for them. He was just already in your backline before the Riptides could even turn. And with that first elimination onto the Mercy, that stops a lot of the Riptides like wanting to be aggressive. That effectively stops their push, and at that point they were just playing catch up and they couldn't do that.
Yeah, so already starting off with such a strong, aggressive push from the Everest. Things are looking good for them and already going right in, but at least this time they had the answer of the brick to stun them out of it.
And that headshot on a triplet is also going to stop the Everest momentum. We should see them back up a little bit here, and it looks like they are going to do exactly that, but the fight starts again.
Ooh, great pick to kick things off, give them that +1 to fight, but KJ is there to even out, committing the pulse bomb. Maya with the uncontested res, though, is good value, bringing back the secondary heals, so at least the Riptides can stay in this fight a little bit longer, as they do end up losing Illusion, though. So it's been solid trade so far, but right now the Everest having the upper hand.
And now we're starting to see some ultimates get close to being online. I expect to see that Valk committed as early as possible, as soon as it's charged, because this is a very staggered fight in which ultimates could really flip the script here. So we'll be waiting for that rally. And actually, those eliminations are just going to take it.
Yeah, huge dive onto Illusion with both the Tracer and the Wrecking Ball just collapsing on Illusion. And quickly followed by Chum taking down Frozen Phoenix. Without main tank, Riptides are going to have a hard time trying to recap this point and may have to just go for the reset.
And the Everests are still chasing them. They are on them in their backline. Even as the Riptides try to retreat, we see the Valk committed, but it's already too late to win this fight. I mean, maybe not. Illusion's going to win that Widow duel, and the Riptides have an in back onto this point. Mango's going to get eliminated by the Pulse Bomb. This is just pick for pick. We see the bubble come out, so the Rez is able to get there, but Valkyrie is no longer in play here, and ALW is still on your backline on that Widowmaker. I think maybe even the Widowmaker has been getting huge value. It might be easier for them to play a Cassidy.
Yeah, bringing out both support ultimates, even the rally on both sides for the Riptides, running out of utility here. Now even bringing out the Graviton Surge, but they're not getting any eliminations. Finally, they get Panda Squad, who swapped over to the Hanzo, but they're going to have to deal with the self-destruct as it comes down. Even ALW taking down main support. Now even your off-tank's down. This should be round one for the Everest, and a pretty dominating victory as Keijo even gets the last two members.
The Riptides never really fully reset. There were times they were constantly in that fight. That was a 100-0 fight, and we've talked about it. It does not work for these teams that take these extended engages. If you're down one, there is no reason for you to keep pushing the point if they are 99, if they just have the point and you're down. There is no reason to keep pushing that. And the Riptides, there were a lot of times where they would get even and then immediately go down one again, and that even, I think, was the nail in the coffin that like gave them the hope to keep pushing, but they were still overall down one most of the time and not winning these fights. And I think if they want to win this next one, a clean reset is what they're going to be looking for after lost fights.
Yeah, and we also saw it constantly. Illusion now being dived by two members of the Everest again and again and again, and finally they swapped over to Cold Cassidy, but it was a bit too little too late. So now coming out of the gates, we're seeing the Pharmacy come out for the Riptides, which should pay out for them pretty well, going up against the Soul Panda Squad with no mercy. But already ALW is there in the rotations, going right in on the Baptiste.
ALW has phenomenal ball tech.
Yeah, he's really had control of this map and just presence wherever they go. And with a pick like that is huge. Onto the Zenyatta, taking down Triplet. That's your secondary heals who wasn't even in the fight yet. Joe's reign of terrors continues as he is able to take down Panda Squad with the help of Illusion now with that Pocket Mercy getting a ton of value. But with the knock into the hole from ALW with a huge triple, main tank and main support down, the Everest have this fight.
And the Riptides, they did an amazing job. Joe did a good job, but none of them are ready for ALW, which is why I think that Cole Cassidy swap can be so valuable to them, because that Cole Cassidy is what's going to be able to stop that ball. I think the Riptides are just having a little bit of some difficulty adjusting to the dominant ball force that has so far been ALW. And we do have some ultimates online for the Everest, as they do have the point. I expect this Mines to be committed on the Riptides approach before they get to the point, or on the point.
Yeah, Panda Squad getting a lot of poke, but with the Battle of the Skies occurring, he's going to have a rough time winning that. But with a huge pick onto Mango like that is the end of the fight. Quickly followed up by Frozen Phoenix and Illusion. Now that's your main DPS to deal with the ball. Everest just collapsed on the poor rotations of Riptides. I mean, getting Mango lost first, that's the one thing you never want to happen as your main heals.
And that is a fight immediately. You notice that the Everest, as soon as Mango in there, they were like a shark with blood in the water. They were on that immediately. And ALW was one of their key members, but we also want to highlight specifically Panda Squad on that Echo doing getting huge value that fight, even though they weren't the only one in the kill feed.
Yeah, no Pocket Mercy needed. Still able to collapse and get the target picks that he needs. But with the Deadeye coming online, he's going to have to play a little bit safer to watch out for that. And with a great stun onto Frozen Phoenix, that's main tank down after they made their swaps. No longer on the Orisa combo. Oh, and it seems that the DPS is just coming out for the Everest, picking off member after member. Now down 4, now down 5. Illusion, the last one remaining, and he will get taken down by the LW, who just has had presence on every single corner of this map.
It almost would have been better to like let the elimination happen to you in the face of the supports. You weren't gonna get away at that point. They have the ball, and it looks like the Riptides have a switch over to the Sombra, which I expect to be huge value. And Maya is going to swap over to the Moira, which gives them a lot more survivability, but it might be too little too late as we start this next fight.
Yeah, with an elimination on Maya, that's taking away their main heals. She might be able to come back in time. Even the pulse bomb committed, but does not land. Looking for that Reaper as Triplet takes down Mango. Now both heals are out of the fight. Maya might be back in time, but with the self-destruct coming in to eliminate Joe, that's no anti-tank. They have no presence on the point, and that will be map 1 for the Everests.
I almost think that the Riptides would benefit from a hard stun comp, just because ALW is in there causing chaos all the time. We saw 9 times out of 10, most of those fights, he had that first elimination, usually onto their supports, and there's not a whole lot you can do if a ball rolls into your backline, picks your support, and then rolls out, or even gets a second and third elimination. They've got to do something about that ball, or they're going to lose this best of 3.
Yeah, I was surprised we didn't see something like maybe even a Doomfist come out to try to deal with the presence of the ball, knock him around, maybe try to match him for that veracity. The Brig was a good idea, and he landed a couple of stuns, but he was unable to protect that main heals a lot of the time of Mango getting eliminated, maybe just not throwing down the Immortality field enough. We were unable to see a lot of the times, but the Sombra was a little too late, as you mentioned as well. So, really, right now, the Riptide's having a rough start, but heading into map 2, it is going to be Rialto. So, might favor them a bit more if at least the Everests aren't going to attack first.
So if you want to full commit to making the ball miserable, and I definitely think the Riptides do, the ball has been a problem. You want to hard counter that as hard as you possibly can. I think the Pharah is not going to do much for you against the ball. I think the Sigma does a good bit for you because he has the rock and just has the sustain, like a ball is not going to be able to pick him. But the support lineup, Maya's only option is to run away. Mango's only option is to hit the sleep. These are not these are supports that are, I think, very much going to struggle against ALW on that ball and KJ on that Tracer.
Yeah, they've been that wombo combo dive, already looking for the knockoff, but huge stuns coming in, gets the value. That's exactly what the Riptides needed. They should be able to push past the bridge here and get that space so they don't have to worry about the ball as much. So you already see the Everest having to retreat, losing that main tank.
And I think that was the first time that ALW rolled into all 6 and got eliminated for it. So great job by the Riptides.
Yeah, now picking off secondary tank, but by this time ALW is back. But Illusion now going on a tear, now on a 2-piece right now. I was looking for his third, but ALW's on that backline. Surprisingly trying to focus down the Orisa while in gold mode. Doesn't have the DPS to match that, so KJ will end up trading out for Mango, which is huge value for them right now, taking down the main heals. But the Riptides do have spawn advantage.
The Riptides only had a couple of minutes in between these 2 games, but they have completely reset and changed their attitudes about this ball, and this ball is now getting really countered very well for these past couple of fights.
Yeah, Panda Squad even swapping over to the Soldiers, going to get taken down. Illusion now really coming online for his team right now. Finally, ALW is able to take down Frozen Phoenix, as we can see, just standing in the face of him. But will cost his own life, as Joe's actually going to bring out the barrage and promptly he get denied by the Transcendence coming out from Triplet. So ult for ult so far, but Riptides are looking to regroup.
The Riptides have a way in this next fight. They have the ultimate advantage. The big one that I would like to see is the Sigma ultimate that is 93 and almost there. Would have been a good combo with the Deadeye, but the Deadeye was unfortunately just committed there.
Yeah, not even many members trying to run out of the line of sight. He must have just been too far back we were unable to see. But KJ even getting eliminated by Illusion, doing his job eliminating the Tracer. But Panda Squad able to take down Joe, who did not have Maya with him. It's a bit of aggressive play as he was so far forward on the stairs. Now Triplet even taking down Fulcrum. That's your secondary tank down. Riptides are having to retreat, now even losing Illusion now as well. Everest taking a ton of space, as they should.
It's good that the Riptides were able to retreat there. I mean, we saw them committing when they were down 1 in the even fights. I think that is now the biggest problem. They've dealt with the ball for a couple of fights, and they seem to have gotten it together around there, all off the back of mostly Cole Cassidy on Illusion, or Illusion on Cole Cassidy, excuse me. But they're going to need to reset when they're down 1, but they're up 1 now. So now's the time to be aggressive.
Yeah, ALW's being that aggressive forward tank and gets caught out with that flashbang. thing definitely cost the Everest, but they're going to bring out the Gratificlux as well as the sides to take down Mango. That's huge, taking down main heals. Now both supports are down, and Illusion, Panda Squad getting in the backline, will finally get taken down by Joe, but might have been too little too late as Chumma's Thumb is there to finish off Frozen Phoenix. That's a full reset for the Riptides, but they at least only committed the Supercharger.
So the big ultimate on the engage for the Riptides is going to be the Valkyrie, ideally with that blue meme to get them a lot of damage in the early fight here. It would also be big for the Riptides if they could get a pick on the ball before the fight truly begun. That is their recipe for success here. Deadeye, I think, could be of huge value, but historically has not been, especially from this team.
Yeah, so with the swap over to the Sombra, they're probably looking to do exactly what you mentioned, to focus down that ball, but he has the high ground, so they're going to have to rotate over. The Valkyrie does come out, as you mentioned, but right now the Riptides are just rotating, so they're unable to utilize a lot of it. Huge burst of damage going out to Illusion now from Panda Squad on that Soldier. Finally able to contest the high ground. I expect the Deadeye to come out of here, and there it is. But he's unable to find anybody there, and also the Pulse Bomb comes out from KJ to answer, and he's just going to get taken down by a rock to the face. But Maya's there with the res, so they're still at full strength. They're able to stay in the fight, but they need to get onto Cart with only 5 seconds remaining. They have to stay contested with a stun onto ALW. That's huge, plus both tanks going to be exchanged here, but they're going to end up losing Maya. But as revenge, they're going to be able to take down both DPS of the Everest. So the Riptides may be able to stay in this fight. They just need to take down that last remaining Sigma or one of the supports, as Triplet's just been raining down damage up top. ALW even comes back in time with the mines on Card, which brings out Triplet's Transcendence to keep his teammates in the fight. And now with Joe and Mango going down, that's main support. Now even the rotation's coming back as Riptides gets eliminated from spawn with the ultimates coming out from the Everest. Huge flip for the Everest to hold them at 95 meters, no less.
So I'm not going to lie, the Everest should have lost that. They did a great job soft resetting, and the Riptides didn't chase them, and that is actually what led to their success. You could see all the way up until this Transcendence, the Zenyatta was just spamming from high ground, and nobody was there to contest him. Nobody got the elimination on the Zenyatta, and that Brig in that room, they didn't push her. And when it's just a Brig and a tank, I understand that you're scared to push the Brig sometimes. She has a lot of value, and she has a lot of sustain, and she can stun you and eliminate you. But when you are 6v2, you need to push that Brig, especially because they're cut off from their Zenyatta, who's above them on that high ground.
Yeah, you got to capitalize on one of the two supports being caught out. We saw the Sigma there. He has a presence and can stun you. They had a lot of CC potential, but when it's 6v2, as you mentioned, like, that's something you want to push. They only have 2 stuns and a knock away. That's the value you want to collapse on, and that's maybe a bit of a communication issue on the side of the Riptides, as that ended up costing them a round. So they essentially just have to hold before first checkpoint against the Everest, and with how aggressive the Everest have been playing, especially around ALW, they're kind of going that pseudo dive to play around the ball. He's been their win condition of he goes in, that's who your target is. So the Riptides are going to have to try to have an answer for that, and it's going to be down onto the shoulders of that Sombra to get the hack in.
And Illusion will just be trying to spam down main, as we see with that Pocket Mercy. This Ashe is expected to get huge value, especially on these long sight lines. But Riptides have a really tall order right now.
Yeah, ALW looking for that pick, but instead, Illusion's going to get the pick onto Triplet, ends up trading out for Joe, getting taken down by KJ, sadly just caught out of the rotations. But with the burn, that's no supports remaining for the Everest. They do have spawn advantage, so it seems that the Everest are just going to continue their push forward, as the healing from the card does provide the minuscule amount that they need. But ALW falling solo even with the burn is going to get taken down by unable to find the health pack in time in that back corner. So Riptides still have a foothold in this fight.
As we get in here, KJ's going to go down. JoJo's back for revenge. That is the Riptides at a full team, but they've given up the high ground. Panda Squad, however, is not able to find the value that they need from that high ground.
Yeah, Everest need to go for more of a clean reset here, because they have been staggered out multiple members, as we see the 1v1 in the back with ALW trying to take on, I believe that was the Joe on the Sombra, unable to get a conclusive victory there. But the amplification matrix is built up for Mango, which could be utilized in this next fight.
And it looks like this next fight is just really one big, long, sustained fight that these two teams have been taking. The Everests haven't reset fully.
Yeah, now they're committing both the Gravitic Flux and the Bob from the Riptides as Illusion now gets taken down, set up for Panda Squad, who gets traded out. But now KJ comes back with a vengeance, taking down both supports with the help of that Pulse Bomb. Even Triplet getting 2 more himself. The Riptides taken apart. That might be it with all 3 members on the cart.
I think the biggest thing there was they weren't ready for KJ to be in the back. Maya was looking for the res on Illusion, and by all means you typically should against your Ashe, but when they have a Tracer, that completely changes how you should go about that.
Yeah, so the Everest will end up taking Rialto and heading into the grand finals after winning Ilios. Pretty dominating victory off the back of ALW.
Honestly, I think ALW was the MVP of Ilios. I don't think ALW did a whole lot on Rialto. I'm not going to lie. I think they were there. I think they were trying to disrupt. But especially compared to what they did on Ilios, it really felt like KJ was the big one to watch for Rialto. KJ on the Tracer was what they weren't ready for. They were too busy hard focusing on the ball that they weren't paying attention to the Tracer, who was just as in their backline getting those eliminations. And the Riptides were put in the very uncomfortable position of only being able to lose 1 fight, right? And that 1 fight that they lost was off the back of KJ.
Yeah, had the Pulse Bomb on Domingo and then quickly eliminated Maya, so hard loss for the Riptides as the Everest head into the grand finals. But as you know, going out alone can only make you go so far. Ultimately, if you want to increase your chances of success, you want to have to level up your team skills. And of course, we just saw that with the Everest having that team skill, able to get the eliminations that they need to win the 1 team fight they need to take the map. So going out alone can only make it so far. You just have to see how talented these players are. Esports Tower really takes time to create teams of well-matched teammates. Of course, I'd like to do a shout out to the coaches, and if you're watching and haven't checked out Esports Tower clubs yet, you should. It's a fast track to rank up, especially with Overwatch 2 on the horizon. Now's the perfect time to get on the Overwatch train, but after a quick little best of 3, final thoughts heading into the grand finals of what do you want to see from the Everest to take on the Tornadoes that have been the top dog?
I think the Everests are in good form for this. They had a dominating, they just did a phenomenal job against the Riptides there. And I want to say that the biggest deal was their flankers. But the Tornadoes are going to deal with those flankers more. It's not going to be as much of a one or the other. They're going to focus on both, and they're going to try to circumvent both the Tracer and the ball. So I would expect the Everest to maybe be forced to swap off that, unless the Tornadoes are just going to try to mirror, in which case it's a matter of who can play their individual heroes, mirrored heroes better, and who can play better as a team.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how the Everest are going to try to take back their title of Esports Tower Rumble Grand Champion. So make sure to stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
We're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day. We're going to save families from disaster and feed those left in the cold. We invite you to join us. The next greatest generation is now.
A rogue virus, no jobs, sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
Growing up in Idaho, we have certain rules we live by. First rule, camouflage never goes out of style. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by. Growing up in Riggins, we have certain rules we live by. Look both ways before crossing the street. Fishing stories get better the more you tell them. Small town life makes your life anything but small. Never work alone when you go hunting. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by.
Hello everyone and welcome back to this week's broadcast of the Esports Tower Rumble in Overwatch. We are broadcasting it here from the Boys State Game Pants Esports Arena, and it is week 4 of our spring Overwatch Rumble, and it is time to see if the Tornadoes can defend their title from week 3. The Everest are back for revenge after being knocked off the top spot, so let's see who can come out on top. I'm your host, Brendan Barrett, and joined with me to call all of the actions, Colby D'Angelo Alloway. So jumping into the grand finals, as we mentioned, the Everest are here to come back with a vengeance, and right now ALW or the KJ are two main players to watch for them, but going up against the Tornadoes that have both Bonesaw, not Doomfist, it's a big mountain to climb.
You're gonna. I see what you did there.
Aha.
I almost started talking without acknowledging that fantastic pun. So I think not Doomfist is going to be much harder prey for both ALW and KJ, just because we've seen them do amazing things on the Ana, and they hit their sleeps, I want to say 70% or above. Most of the time they hit their sleeps, and if you get slept as a dive hero, usually that is a death sentence. Like, usually there's not anything else you can do, especially because the Tornadoes are expected to be able to, the whole team, collapse on the sleeping target. I will say, I think the Everest's best chance going into this, I think their strongest map is without a doubt going to be Control, partially because of what we've seen already tonight, but also because Control kind of benefits the way the Everests like to play, which is everybody individually doing their own things. Sometimes people, it's kind of like the Overwatch 2 mindset. Sometimes people will get together and do the same thing, but for the most part, everybody's out there just trying to win the 1v1.
Yeah, after just seeing them play the Riptides, they definitely had that more individual skill, which is why they were able to collapse a lot of the times. But where they beat them out was the team play, as you mentioned, because we saw multiple times of ALW and KJ collapsing on Illusion now, which is how they won it. They called the dive, and only the 2 members committed because that's all they needed. So going up against the Tornadoes, who have beaten them out on individual level, is definitely worrying, but as I totally agree with you, on Control, that seems to be their go-to mode where they win. So I have to wait and see how things are going to kick off. But of course, we want to take a moment to congratulate all of the Esports Tower Club members who have graduated from the clubs and been offered scholarships across the country. Over the last 3 months, Esports Tower Club members have received over $1.6 million in scholarships awards. These students have not only worked hard on their in-game play, but worked hard academically and earned these scholarship opportunities. We could not be more excited and proud to see these opportunities these players are all getting. And to finish things out, especially with the Everest, they're going to need all the help they can get, and we can give it to them through Doc's keys to the game. And in Overwatch, that's to never take a fair fight. But what does that mean? Take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared, and of course, tempo, tempo, tempo. And these are brought to us by the Esports Tower, who invites you to score pro advice at esportstower.com. Improve your game sense, improve your team play, and improve your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and professional coaches to help you rank up. Well, as we get ready to jump into our grand finals for the night of the Everest taking on Tornadoes, map 1 is gonna be Nepal.
I think Nepal is one of the more difficult maps to run that ball on, so we'll see if they'll be able to get that value. I think they're... Because the point, especially with that Mei, is almost a death sentence for the ball. They're going to have to get their value in the open places and in rotations, and especially walking into a Reinhardt and a Junkrat, this is a tall order for ALW.
Yeah, he had a good setup to kick things off, but already Chamas Fum has been demeched, and Avian goes down. That secondary heals and secondary tank down. Everest have already had to reset, now losing Triplet and Panda Squad. It's only KJ and ALW remaining, no less. And going up against the Mei, who can still freeze you. This is not Overwatch 2 just yet. ALW might not be able to retreat in time, falling so low, but finally gets back to his team in time.
And that's the other thing that the ball does. The ball can go in and get out, but also doesn't offer a ton of support in the frontline battle, so just kind of leaves the Everests again with a Reinhardt in their face.
Yeah, Tornadoes have had just that pressure to win the front line with ALW's, he's harassing the backline, but they're just continuing to push forward and play tightly together. That ALW has not been able to get the pick. Now with Panda Squad on the Hanzo trying to pick them off maybe might be the difference they need, but right now the point's in the Tornadoes' control.
We also have Bonesaw on that Junkrat. ALW is going to have a really tough time approaching this point with a Junkrat and a Mei on it. You see, he can't even get on it. He's like peeking, but can't.
Yeah, KJ even committing the pulse bomb gets denied by the immortality field. Even threw it onto the Reinhardt, so he couldn't get that elimination. Hard loss, but Everest coming back with a vengeance, able to take down not Doomfist. That's a huge plus in this fight with no main heals. They might be able to push the Tornadoes here, but they need to deal with that Reinhardt shield.
They also need to deal with the Junkrat that was split on high ground for a little bit there as we start this next engagement. Yeah,
Gambler will commit the sound barrier to kick things off, but is very low, able to knock down multiple members from that high ground. With KJ getting eliminated by Bonesaw, that's a huge plus, but ALW being that carry right now. Even committing the mines, able to take down both DPS. Now Panda Squad taking down the off heals should be this fight for the Everest as they finish off Phoenix.
I think one micro thing that we were watching It's Gambler on that perspective. So I think they needed to have finished off that Hanzo and maybe try the Zenyatta before they had the opportunity to transcend, because that would have put them up too in this fight, and especially because the Hanzo came back with other eliminations. I think It's Gambler should have hard pushed the Hanzo because he was just a melee away.
Yeah, so Tornado's now going for the re-engage, but the Everest are going to answer them with the rally, and with the pick onto Bonesaw, that's the main DPS down. But the Everest are going to end up trading out, losing Avian with that rally online to the self-destruct. Now, Phoenix even taking down the second support. That's no supports remaining for Everest. They should back off here, but they're going to fight to get as much percentage as they can as they are beginning to lose the point. With two members committing to the Mei, unable to get her. She even throws down the Blizzard as a latch-ditch effort. Panda Squad will go down to that eventually from the mines as Bonesaw has finally come back from spawn. But it seems the Everest are going to hold on to it with ALW able to take down Phoenix, even though the Tornadoes were able to cap the point.
And now that the Tornadoes have the point, they're in the position to play more defensively. They just have to do a little bit of cleanup here, and then they can set up and force the Everests to approach them. And the Everests, if they continue with this tank lineup, are going to have a really difficult time on that approach, especially as the Tornadoes are set up on this high ground.
Yeah, Everest have to recontest here, but they are down secondary healer, now swapping over to the Moira. Now ALW going down to the trap, no less. Such little damage just shows how low he was. Now Avian and Triplet goes down, that's no heals. It's all on KJ to stay on this point right now against both Tanks and Bonesaw. So at least he trades out with Phoenix, that's huge. But with no members of the Everest able to get back in time, that means Tornadoes will take map 1 of Nepal.
We thought Control was going to be their strong map, and then it came out and was Nepal. And with that point, as enclosed as it is, there really wasn't a ton of ways that ALW or KJ could approach on those flankers. So I think the biggest problem that the Everest had here was they were just too committed to their comp, and they didn't swap off of it, even though it wasn't working. But I expect this same comp that they were running, which is the Ball, the Tracer, the Diva, I expect that to be able to get a lot more value on this part of Nepal, which is much more open. Should either team choose to run a Pharah or an Echo, I believe those would work for the same reasons, but it looks like Bonesaw's on that Doomfist, which is, again, no. I've been debated. It is the Symmetric. And it looks like the Tornadoes, their comp is telling me that they want to brawl on this point right now.
Oh, he went back.
No, he went back to the Doomfist.
It was just for that early teleporter.
They want to take the point and then not let it go. I think the Everest, unless they get there first, they're going to have a difficult time taking this from the Tornadoes.
Tornadoes can definitely out-sustain the Everest here, especially with Panda Squad not having a Pocket Mercy. And Chum's Pump already demeched is huge early on, but will be ended up trading out for Bonesaw. Now losing Avian, that's both supports down for the Everest, but Panda Squad able to take down main support from the Tornadoes. Might keep them in this fight, but they're down so many members, they need a reset here.
And you see the ball just running away there. I think the biggest thing there was sometimes as main support, when you have the ball and the Tracer on you and nobody's peeling for you as Baptiste, you just need to live as long as you can and get value for as long as you can. And Not Doomfist definitely did that, and its Gambler was able to stay alive throughout that entire engagement and provide that support that the Tornadoes needed, whereas the Everest didn't have that.
Yeah, so already ALW falling very low, Avian falling low as well. Now KJ dropping low, and Triplet finally able to start regenning those shields. It's just coming a lot of poke here. Tornadoes, as you mentioned, they want to brawl on point. This is exactly what the Everest don't want to do with their comp. They want to try to get as much poke as they can, get him low, and then maybe dive on point to try to collapse. But instead, Bonesaw might have gotten overly aggressive, getting taken down by the beam of Panda's Squad. Mapsy also getting caught out of point. Having Turret take back over to the team brings out the sound barrier to keep him alive, as well as the mines coming out from ALW to deny the rotations. But Mapsy scouts out the low Panda Squad and takes him down. Now also ALW falling, quickly followed by Triplet. That's main tank and both supports down, all due to Mapsy right now. So the Everest are unable to hold it here and only get about that 5% as KJ goes down to Phoenix Wrong. ALW with the recontest comes flying in, has to buy as much percentage as he can. The Tornadoes already at 56 are running away with it, and with the Everest throwing bodies on point, they only got up to 15%.
So you notice the immediate rotation back there, and then when they could, they went in and were aggressive, and I would say that that is the biggest thing that led to the Tornadoes' success here. They backed out when they needed to, and then with an aggro sound barrier, walked right back in like they're doing right now.
Yeah, even committing the duplicate, falling solo, trying to 1v1 a Reaper is not what you want to do as a Rhino, but the Shatter's going to come out and land onto both DPS, but no one is there to capitalize, so that forces out both the Death Blossom and the Meteor Strike for the Tornadoes to get back to point time, but not Doomfist and Bones are able to eliminate 2 members of the Everest +2 in this fight. That buys them that much more time that the Everest can't afford. As we are passing the 90% mark, Everest only have time for about 1 more team fight and need to engage with that Rally, who's immediately eliminated. That spells doom for the Everests.
And like as we go into this final fight here, the Everest are just trying to put bodies on this point, and they're running out of them. And at members trade, KJ's trading for Not Doomfist and is still on this point. That's what you want to do when you're coming in overtime. You want to trade, especially for that main support there. But the remaining members of the Everest are unable to get those trades and kind of like slowly whittle down the Tornadoes.
Yeah, ALW having to commit the mines and barely ends up surviving. Almost knocked off the edge thanks to Bones, and instead just going to get eliminated by Gambler coming out from behind him. All of the ults being committed by the Everest, now even swaps with Triplet over to the Moira to just maintain on point. Self-destruct able to zone out the Tornadoes, but with no eliminations, they can stay in this fight. But now Panda Squad taking down main heals and Mapsy going down with a huge DPS loss on point. Tornadoes not looking too good, but Bonesaw coming back with a vengeance, able to take down both the Lucio and the Tracer, keeps his team in that fight, finally taken down by Bonesaw, who takes down main heals, but the Tornadoes with so much individual skill are able to stay in this fight and win Nepal.
I think that the biggest thing the Tornadoes have over the Everests right now is they're communicating and moving as a team, which is not something that the Everests are doing. For example, we saw a couple of fights with the Tornadoes where they actually started the fight down 1. But ended up winning the fight. One of the most notable examples was those last 2 fights before it devolved into scrappy 1v1ing on the point. The Tornadoes were immediately taken down 1. They backed off the point. They gave up that space, and then when they had the opportunity to, went in with an aggressive sound barrier and then went up 2 members and just kept pushing. And that team communication is what's keeping the Tornado in, and it's something that the Everest severely lack. They're all trying to play the individual game, and some members are getting more value than others. But overall, it feels like the KJ-ALW duo that we were seeing in some of those other matchups, it doesn't exist as much right now.
I don't think, maybe this is me not being able to pay attention, but I don't think we ever saw a concise team push from the Everest outside of the very first team fight. But even then, it was still very split of ALW off doing his own thing, KJ picking a target, and then Panda Squad doing his own thing as well. It was kind of just very split up. They were together maybe once or twice the entire Nepal match, so it was pretty bad for the Everest, but maybe they can bring it back with the second map being Havana.
I do need to say that ALW is getting a lot of individual value on that ball, but the rest of his team is left floundering because that ball doesn't offer any frontline support, and usually is really hard to shot call as because a ball goes off and does their own thing. So this Reinhardt swap, I expect to give them more of that team element they're severely lacking.
Yeah, they need to watch out for the Lucio actually in their backline, causing a lot of havoc. Now Bonesaw even knocking him back into it, but AOW gets first blood, trading out for the tanks, but Bonesaw's there to pick up 2 more to even things out. That's no tanks remaining, I believe, for the Tornadoes. Actually, they do have spawn advantage though. Oh, so Everest just trying to hold them at the door, losing members that they can't afford, and without the Lucio to cart them back, even wins the 1v1 against Bonesaw, which is impressive nonetheless. But ALW falling solo, able to charge the Shatter, did not commit it as he was falling very low. So it seems that Tornadoes will finally win the battle here as their respawns are coming back.
You gotta think that maybe Lucio's not the person to repeatedly try to land the punches on, because Triplet juked him 3 times before winning that duel here as the Tornadoes finally get on card.
The Reinhardt on card is definitely an interesting choice, as only 3 members of the Tornadoes are holding the entire team of the Everest at bay right now. Well, 4 members now. They were able to get 1 rotated in time, but Chum is able to contest the high ground. A lot of pressure being put onto Not Doomfist, even commits the Immortality field just to keep himself alive. But just a very brawly team fight. Finally, Not Doomfist will go down, but Chum is also falling very low. That's main support down, but does not deny the Tornado from staying in this fight. Now even the Dragon Blade coming out to answer the Everest have to commit both the Sound Barrier and the Amplification Matrix, and that's elimination onto Mapsy, unable to secure anything with the Dragon Blade. That's why we always see the Nano double committed with it. Now Everest are bringing it back, taking down Phoenix Wrong, but it will cost them Triplet in the long run. Now Panda Squad as well. It's just constant trades, 2 for 2 right now. Oh, it's still a brawl on card, as finally Everest get +1, now +2 in this fight. Tornadoes do have the spawn advantage and will be able to recontest much quicker than the Everest, but the Everest finally win a team fight.
I expect the Tornadoes to use Amplification Matrix to gain them some space on this big, long sightline as soon as they set up for their next team fight, which they've been unable to do so far.
Yeah, Tornadoes being staggered out right now. Try to go for a recontest with only 4 members, get taken down promptly with KJ on that Cole Cassidy. Can even zone out with the Deadeye looking for this next fight.
And I think Avian, with that only Amplification Matrix, we talked about Not Doomfist using it to gain space, but Avian can also use it just as easily to take space as the bomb is committed.
Yeah, that will definitely get a lot of space. Even Bonesaw is able to collapse onto Triplet and make them +1 in this fight. Now with the Immortality field going down, when Chum answers it with his own ultimate to eliminate Mapsy, but Tornadoes come back, able to get +2. That's main heals and main tank down. They're able to take down the Lucio, but the rest of the team falls. Tornadoes should get checkpoint here.
Panda Squad tried it. There are only 2 members pushing cart. So if the Everest are back very fast, they just left it. They just left it. And I think that actually might give the Everest a contest here, should they choose to take it. And it looks like they're trying.
Oh, but they lose main tank in the rotations. Now it's only down to Chum and the support's coming in. Deadeye's even committed, but will end up getting eaten by the defense matrix. Bonesaw popping off, able to take down on the 2 members. Chum the last surviving of the Everest to get that checkpoint, so the Tornadoes will get it.
They almost, because they didn't touch that cart, the Everest got to fight. They ended up being able to win the fight as we push, and we see the Tornadoes taking a lot of space here, which is exactly what you want, but you want somebody on the cart while everybody else is taking that space.
Yeah, Mapsy. Ooh, Shatter coming out from Phoenix does not land onto any members of the Everest. Instead, Panda will end up getting frozen, forcing out Gambler to bring out the Sound Barrier to keep him alive. Now +2, taking down main heal, or main tank, and the main DPS of that Mei. Tornadoes are getting very aggressive, pushing the spawn doors on Havana, no less, is something we don't see all that often, as KJ is able to take down Gambler. Might have to slow down the Tornadoes push right now as they take down Chamas Fum as an answer.
And as we set up for this next engagement, the Everest have a massive ultimate advantage, and I would like to see them show some restraint and use maybe 1 or 2 of them instead of all 5. I think Blizzard could take this fight by itself with no more ultimates required.
Yeah, it's going to have to be watching out for Pando, and he will end up landing it directly on Carr. Deadeye coming out from Mapsy as well, trying to get them zoned out. Will not land onto anyone. Said Panda Squad is going to pick up onto Phoenix. So both teams losing their main tank here, but the Everest having that spawn advantage as it's much closer for them. Able to recontest. Panda loses his mech, but is able to take out Triplet as the Baby Diva with the melee. Now the Everest collapsing onto both that Baby Diva and the Lucio. Stay in this fight. Trading 1 for 1, now 2 for 2.
And as we go into this next meet, I think the sound barrier was a little bit of an overcommit, but it's only an overcommit if Phoenix can get value with the shatter that we see just charged.
Yeah, he's looking for it, playing so far forward, but losing Panda Squad like that, he does not have his sidekick and is going to land onto 2 members on the stairway. Only able to collapse onto Phoenix, brings out the Immortality Field to keep him in the fight. But instead, the Everest are going to end up losing KJ and Triplet. Now Avian, that's no support, hurts, and main tank goes down as well. Everest have lost this fight, and that should be checkpoint.
I think that Everest should give them that space because setting up third point Havana is much more valuable than trying to put bodies on this point and ultimately stall. And it looks like they are just trying to set up. They're setting up very, very close. They're setting up in the positions where they can lose a couple of fights before losing.
Yeah, and losing main heals like that might lose them this next fight, but instead they're gonna come back and make me eat my words with Chum is Fun with a huge double self-destruct onto both supports. But Tornadoes do have that new spawn, so they're immediately back in the fight, now trading out Panda Squad for Mapsy. Chum is Fun still having full mech. ALW falling very low. Will get taken down by that Flame Strike, but KJ is able to take down now Doomfist as well. As they're going to lose Avian and KJ go down, so it's still 2 for 2. The Everest losing that 1 extra member in main tank means the Tornadoes win that fight.
It was a very clever idea for the Everest to push all the way into their spawn door. It gave them a lot of time and gave them the ability. See, now you can see they've completely wiped, and now they have the option to set up in this castle now, and they've been able to take about a minute of time out of the Tornadoes bank as they approach this castle, which is famous for being terrible to cap.
Yeah, Tornadoes might be able to do it though. They do have the 4 ultimates, but losing not Doomfist means that might just be the end of the push for them with no main heals, now no main tank. Everest have been able to collapse on him here, and with only 45 seconds remaining, Tornadoes might only have 1 to 2 more team fights if they can have a clean reset that quickly.
So just in general, I'm not going to lie to you, I typically do not expect teams to third cap on Havana, even if it is the Tornadoes, just because it is such a defensible position. Respawns are there. It almost feels like 2 CP as this fight begins. Ooh, even the Meteor Strike and Blizzard committed with only 25 seconds remaining. Now losing main tank and secondary support for the Everest. Might have been an overcommit on that Blizzard from Panda Squad. Now he's very much out of rotation behind the enemy team. Has to bring up the Ice Block to not get eliminated, but still gets eliminated anyway as he ended it early. So now Phoenix Rock is going to get aggressive with the Shatter, comes out onto the Sigma, but has no team to follow him up to get the elimination. So instead, the Break's going to be able to eliminate the Baby Diva by knocking her off the edge. But with time not in their favor, and Tornado is going to end up C9ing off the cart, getting too aggressive. So the Everest are able to hold them. The Tornadoes are forgetting about the cart quite a lot. Like, that has been the story of Havana, and they finally did it. They had a pretty good fight. They could have gotten the cart at least into doorway. Not necessarily all the way to cap third point, but, like, there were still members alive. Everybody was just off of the cart, and this is not the first time we've seen them just totally leave the cart. So I would really like to see the Tornadoes just be more aware of that, because that is their biggest win condition. Like, you can get all the eliminations you want, but if you don't touch the cart, you're not going to get any value for that. I think the Everests, this is winnable for them. Third point Havana is very notoriously difficult to cap, but the cart is in a very winnable position. It didn't end up going all the way into Castle, so I would say that the Everest's biggest struggle in terms of pushing will be second point, if they're able to cap first. And it looks like the Tornadoes are going in for that close hold, which there's no reason not to do on Havana, right? The point of a close hold is to go in right at their spawn doors and take the fight, and you want to take like 30 seconds off is good. A minute is amazing. A minute 30 is almost impossible, but we've seen some teams do it and they completely full hold first point Havana. The goal here is to give yourself a second fight.
Yeah, so with that close hold, it seems that the Everest are slow to come out of spawn. probably were expecting the Tornadoes with that close hold thanks to the window up above their spawn. So just looking for a way out right now. It's just ring around the Rosie. The flashbang onto the D.Va. That's a great way to start. A lot of damage coming out with that Fan the Hammer, but the stun even going on to Phoenix forces out the Immortality field to keep his tank alive. Ooh, but the Fan the Hammer missing those 3 bullets is detrimental. Bonesaw with 4 HP will be first blood. Going over to Triplet. Now with the double stun coming out from KJ onto both tanks. Should give the fight that little extra edge for the Everest. Now the Amplification Matrix charge so quickly leads the Everest to be able to take down Phoenix Strong. Now even D-Mech Pando, that should be the fight for the Everests.
And that was a good close hold by the Tornadoes. They got torn apart immediately after Bonesaw, but they got an extra 30 seconds off the clock. And now they can hold back at this corner. The only disadvantage to a close hold is now the Tornadoes are at a slight ultimate disadvantage. It'll be up to Mapsy to charge Blizzard as fast as they can and the Tornadoes to sustain through Deadeye.
Yeah, so that's hopefully something the Everest are calling out, is looking out for that Blizzard to get it eaten up. So KJ's going to open it up with the dive, unable to find anybody. So not Doomfist going to bring out the Amplification Matrix, but quickly the Tornadoes give up the high ground, unable to utilize that ultimate. Instead, they're just going to win the 1v1s, being +2 in this fight. Everest are going to have to probably reset here, especially after a huge Deadeye is able to eliminate main heals and a DPS.
We mentioned the Blizzards, but that wasn't the big thing of this fight. I think it will be the big thing next fight, as Panda Squad is 98 and approaching, and Mapsy is 92. I think better Blizzard is going to win this next engagement, and both teams also have a D.Va to potentially eat that Blizzard.
Yeah, but losing main tank and Panda Squad going down, that's no Blizzard, and even the Shatter is committed, able to land on multiple members, which brings out Gambler's self-destruct or sound barrier. So now, as you mentioned, there's Mapsy with the Blizzard, able to land onto Avian, and the self-destruct lands right next to him, so he's going to get eliminated. KJ's able to at least take down Bonesaw, but with the rest of his team getting taken down, they have to reset here.
And the Tornadoes are going to understandably be back up, give them that space. They're still not a full team right now, so they just hold this corner and hope for the best here. And actually, no, Reinhardt just looks like he's going in.
Yeah, Gambler's actually going to be first blood in this fight, and both Amplification Matrix are going to come out here, so both Maywalls are immediately going to block them out. But KJ is able to collapse on Phoenix, having to retreat. Now main heals also goes down. Now Mapsy going down. They have no pressure on the car as Pando also gets taken down. Everest came back with a vengeance, and that early pick onto Gambler led to all of this happening.
So I said that the Tornadoes would have a hard time being aggressive and can't push past the corner. And then they pushed past the corner. And then they got torn apart by both Amplification Matrices and just the fact that they weren't full team and they weren't all together. So the Everest, at this point now, just have to stop the recontests.
It seems ALW might have done exactly that with the Shatter onto Mapsy. It's a huge pick onto the main, but he will end up costing him his own life. The Deadeye only being prevented by the Immortality field, with Avian saving his team, and KJ getting a huge pick onto Gambler once again. Gambler being one of the first members to be taken out, but with the self-destruct zoning a lot of members out, able to take down Pando. Now no tanks remaining for the Tornadoes, just the DPS. Once again, Tornadoes do not contest the cart. Overwatch is an objective game, and they just don't acknowledge that. Just going for eliminations, trading out for Panda Squad.
And because they got those eliminations, they could hold spawn doors for a little bit if they wanted to, but it looks like they're understandably and wisely going to back up and hold the high ground. That is the better hold here.
Yeah, Tornadoes right now having a real issue, maybe with communication or just having bloodlust in the eyes, going for the eliminations. Everest getting a ton of distance on the carts right now. Phoenix could try to Shatter here as he went off from the backline, but is just going to have to grab the health pack. Could Shatter here, and he will go for it. Able to land on 2 members, but the Immortality field coming in clutch from Avian to keep his May alive. Instead, she'll still get eliminated, but is able to throw down the Blizzard to at least get the revenge elimination onto Phoenix. ALW and Avian do go down. That's no supports and only 1 off tank remaining. Everest have to reset here.
And it looks like Baby D.Va is going to get staggered, as she should. The Tornadoes still have this high ground advantage here. What the Tornadoes want to do is they want to get picks before the fight begins. But because of how long that went, they're actually going to start this next fight down 1. 2.
Tornadoes right now falling apart, able to at least get the remake and the charge pins for both. The Immortality build is brought out, but Phoenix is so low that Chumma's Foam just dropping on his head will be able to Goomba stomp him, and that means he gets eliminated. Now main heals of not Doomfist also going down. Everest can continue to push this cart, being +4, not losing a single member.
I think you were 100% correct when you said the Tornadoes have Bloodlust. I think they've got nothing but Bloodlust, because staggering that Diva should have been easy, and then they should have reset back on the high ground. Except they didn't eliminate the Diva, and they didn't reset onto the high ground. They spent too long playing with their food, so to say.
The Deadeye coming out from the high ground, able to eliminate Triple, but the Maywall zones out Phoenix, but with the Immortality field coming out, keeps him alive. Now both Lucios have gone down, but with Phoenix going down next for the Tornadoes, means they won't be able to hold the cart much longer. Able to at least answer by taking down both DPS, but both tanks still on the cart are able to get the checkpoint.
And they had members again to contest, but they did not. The Tornadoes, they're 2 minutes and 2 seconds. It's a little bit uncomfortable to hold third point Havana as far as the cart has gotten for that long. The Tornadoes will have to have a phenomenal hold, and because the Everests are full team and won that last fight, the Tornadoes can't push into their spawn. So they just have to hold corner where the cart is.
Once again, the Amplification Matrix is going to be the opener for Avian, as well as the Self-Destruct coming out from the Tornadoes. But this time, Tornadoes come out on top by eliminating both main heals and main tank. They do lose Gambler at the cost, who has almost always been the first pick for the Tornadoes. But Everest having a reset because Tornadoes really came out swinging against the Everests.
The aggression really worked for them. I expected them to hold in castle, but they're like, no, absolutely not. I'm going to push in. I don't care if they have an amplification matrix.
Doors.
And now, because of that, they've won the right to do this. And again, their goal with a close hold is like 30 seconds is a good one.
Good Maywall to zone him out. Even his own Maywall is going to keep him out of the fight, so that's going to bring up the Blizzard from Panda Squad, which leads to the elimination of both Mapsy and not Doomfist. That's +2 in this fight, having lost KJ but picked up Gambler. It seems Tornadoes, a bit of miscommunication, not bringing down the Maywall in time, kept Phoenix out of the fight for so long that lost him the fight.
And also Bonesaw. They were effectively down 2 because of that Maywall. The Tornadoes, we were talking about their good rotations on control. Their communication has just fallen apart on Havana. And now they have one more fight to knock the Everests off. If they don't win this, they lose Havana.
As long as they remember to contest the card, not just get the elimination.
That's true.
And with the Deadeye and a great shatter onto the May, the Deadeye is even able to pick up Mapsy. Now, the answer of his own shatter, able to take down Panda Squad. But with both tanks going down for the Tornadoes, they don't have much pressure on the cart. And now Bonesaw even getting taken down by Self-Destruct from behind him. And some great well-played shots by KJ. The Everest will take Havana.
And there were still some members of the Tornadoes that could have contested, though it remains to be seen whether or not they would have been able to do anything, because there wasn't effectively a tank in the fight there. The Tornadoes' communication has just fallen apart. This second map, they are not communicating. The Maywalls, they had 2 members locked in the corner. They are not communicating who's touching cart. They completely forgot about cart 2 whole times. So the Tornadoes really need to like take a little bit of time to just completely mentally reset, because Tornadoes on control versus Tornadoes now are 2 completely different teams.
100%. And also I'd like to touch on the fact of Gambler always getting eliminated. One of the first 2 eliminations. Your Lucio is either playing too far up, or it's just the positioning of your tanks, which is what you just touched on, of the lack of communication of tanks being either too far forward or just out of position trying to go for 1v1s. But they're not playing around the one thing of that's about Overwatch, the objective of the car. And that's what cost them the win. So now heading over to Hybrid, we're going to actually go over to Hollywood. And if the Tornadoes are defensive, I think they'll do a bit better here if they don't get too aggressive, which is hopefully what we don't see.
And also, I do want to talk about the Everest a little bit, because I think the Reinhardt swap for ALW was huge. I think Reinhardt, not because ALW was doing bad on the ball, just because Reinhardt is the better team hero pick, and we see ALW on the Orisa now. So the Everest have a front line, which they didn't have on control, and it did wonders for them on Havana, and I expect this Orisa to get a lot of value on Hollywood. It'll be up to the Tornadoes to try to to get the eliminations before they hard engage on that Orisa. And the Everests really want to do the same thing. They want to pick the Tornadoes in rotations before they get on that Orisa.
Now they will go for a little bit more of that pseudo dive comp with the ball and the D.Va to try to immediately contest that high ground. They're able to knock him off very quickly. Everest don't giving it up without a fight. But instead, with the freeze coming in onto Phoenix, that's a huge +1 in this fight, taking down that main tank that was causing so much havoc.
I think, on paper, the Tornadoes should not be able to push the Everest because they have too much sustain and CC for when that ball goes in.
Yeah, Everest finally able to recontest that high ground right as Phoenix comes back in time. But ALW with a huge pick onto Not Doofus. Now Gambler going down as well. That's no heals and main tank goes down. That is the end of the push for the Tornadoes, but they're still staying in this fight.
And as this fight continues, so let me tell you why the Tornadoes lost that. Because it is mostly their comp. There is not a whole lot a ball can do against May, Torbjorn, Baptiste, Brig. Like, honestly, you should see that, and you should immediately swap off. And that Mercy, Not Doomfist, is primarily pocketing Mapsy, leaving Pando and Phoenix with nothing but Zenyatta healing, which is also not gonna work against the massive sustain that the Everest have.
Yeah, and now getting a bit aggressive themselves with the Amplification Matrix. ALW's going to get knocked right past it. Phoenix is going to get his life taken as the cost. And with two members in the complete backline of the Echo, Mercy brings out the duplicate just so he can retreat in time. Mercy's all by herself. That's something you could collapse on Everest. But instead, they just stay so tightly grouped that brings out the rally. A bit of an overcommit, I would say, from Avian.
I think the rally is going to keep them alive. I think they're expecting more ultimates to come out this fight, which is why they used the rally. And we see the Valkyrie's going to be committed. That is going to, but it's not going to end up doing a whole lot for the Tornadoes just because they're playing so split.
Yeah, Supercharger committed as well. Now the Pulse Bomb to eliminate the Supercharger and Avian is good value for the Tornadoes. But the Evers have just had more sustainability and win the fight.
The Tornadoes are conveniently in spawn. Now would be the time to press H and swap some heroes because this is not gonna work. Even as Avian comes back on the Brig, they still have the Torb, they still have the May, they still have that Baptiste to really stop anybody from getting value.
Yeah, and Chamas Fum has been holding on the self-destruct for quite a bit now as the Tornadoes use theirs to great value. There was no shield to protect them on the stairway. It must have been on cooldown for ALW because that is already the fight for the Tornadoes and should be the point.
And they're trying to make me eat my words here, but I think they're really still going to struggle because that D.Va Bomb isn't going to be online every single fight. And you're not going to be able to hit them in the middle of shield cooldown and in the middle of immortality field cooldown consistently, right? Like, Pando, that was a great play, and it ended up getting them first point and earning them the right to cap this, but at this point, the Everest should be setting up on high ground, but actually with that pick on the Avian, that's going to put a wrench in their plans.
Yeah, Everest will just have to play very much more safe.
Oh my gosh.
Huge triple headshot coming out from Gambler, able to hit that. Huge respect, and even has the Transcendence online, but with him being the only one on the cart, once again, Tornadoes have no presence on the cart. That's a ton of gain value for the Everest with a pick onto him.
Mapsy's, Mapsy
+2
stressed me out with how low they were getting that fight.
Yeah, with no more Pocket Mercy, Mapsy's in a very risky position, so the Everest are just going to jump right onto cart and get aggressive because the Tornadoes don't have an answer for it. They could have been pushing cart this whole time, and it hasn't moved.
And at this point, the Everest have dropped the contest, so now that opportunity is passed as both teams are kind of like looking for picks as the fight starts.
Once again, Gambler, first one eliminated in this next team fight. Chamas Fum will be the cost for it, but a Baby D.Va for your secondary support is huge gain value for the Everest, so they're also going to deny the card push with the Molten Core as KJ falling very low. That health pack will not keep you alive from an Echo that is going in on you. So ALW will bring out the Supercharger to deny any recontest that the Tornadoes are bringing out here. They will lose the supercharger, but it cost the Tornadoes both Pando and Bonesaw to do so.
So we see not Doomfist swapped over to the Baptiste, which I think is a good swap against the Everest comp, but doesn't actually do a whole lot to help the Tornadoes' current tank lineup.
Yeah, maybe the duplicate onto the D.Va might help, but they lose it as quickly as she uses it. But with the rest of the Tornadoes following suit, they're able to get the elimination onto both tanks and the DPS and both supports. That's the one remaining that is Panda Squad of that May. Finally, the Tornadoes are able to win a team fight on second point.
I think the Everests were trying to do too many things at once, right? Like they were just following random members of the Tornadoes, trying to get the elimination. They were doing so as a group, but they were getting picked as they were running around, and eventually you run out of people to contest.
So now they're going for the recontest with the help of that rally. A great set. I'm surprised he did not commit the mines there with how stacked up they were. So instead, the elimination onto ALW will be huge for the Tornadoes with no main tank remaining. Finally, the mines will come out directly onto Cart and get the elimination on to secondary tank. No supports remaining, no DPS remaining. That's the checkpoint.
This should not be working for the Tornadoes. I mean, on paper, they should have been stopped, first point, but some very clutch individual plays have come out. I also have to say that the Tornadoes have been playing this comp, which is absolutely the wrong comp against the Everest. They've been playing it to the best of their ability. They know what their win condition is, which is to get a pick before you ever go in. You need to at least be up 1, ideally up 2, and you really need to focus on the members of the Everest that are playing on the outskirts, and they're doing that.
Yeah, Phoenix dropping very low, even getting frozen, has to bring up the shield, and that keeps him alive. But that will cost the Everest both the turret and the mech. But Triplet coming out of nowhere on the Baptiste takes down both supports of the Tornadoes. Now with Phoenix going down, as well as Pano, no tanks, no supports, Tornadoes reset.
I think the biggest problem point for the Tornadoes in their current comp is going to be this one. Just because this comp is enclosed and indoors. And actually, I don't even know if the Orisa is the best tank comp, but it's certainly better than the ball on the main tank.
Yeah, Tornadoes just really unwilling to swap off other than Bonesaw, who's been the only swap we've seen so far. As Panda Squad gets the elimination on to Phoenix once again. Huge +1. Will end up losing KJ, but demeching Panda like that means that the duplicate has to come out to be the secondary tank as Avian's able to take him down. Will end up costing them the supercharger, but KJ's able to respawn in time and bring out the Moncor. Tornadoes are still continuing to brawl here, just throwing bodies on Cart with only 20 seconds remaining.
I think at this point a Reinhardt would really benefit them, maybe even a Rein Zarya if they really wanted to hard commit to that brawl there. Not Doomfist has been swapping. They've been attempting to like find the correct hero for their comp, but the Baptiste is just unable to do anything for the ball mainly. And Bonesaw has also been swapping, trying to find that like perfect hero for this, but it's not a DPS or support swap problem.
Yeah, it's all about that main tank that we've been highlighting again and again and again. Now, huge ultimate conversion coming on here as both the mines, self-destruct, and the amplification matrix are coming out, and only Chuma's Fun is able to get value from his self-destruct, picking up Bonesaw. KJ now coming online with his turret to eliminate Mapsy. Without that Pocket Mercy is so dangerous to be flying around. But Panda Squad will be the cause. Trades across the board. Now secondary heals and secondary taken once again. Tornadoes don't have a presence on the cart, and that costs them the round.
I will say that it was not as big of a deal there as some other times. They've just completely left the cart because not Doomfist as the solo Baptiste is the one that could have touched, right? I mean, we saw that. But they probably wouldn't have been alive for very long. So at this point, it's just kind of like a matter of like personal honor. Like to die on point is an honorable death in Overwatch, but that is not necessarily staying off the point and living. Not something you want to do, but I don't actually think it would have had a ton of impact on the fight.
Yeah, so right now, Everest on the attack. With how much better they've had both communication and their team play, I would even say, against the Tornadoes, who have amazing individual play, but anytime it comes to the objective or being a team, they've fallen apart. So the Everest can easily come out with an early win here, but with an attack Torb, a little bit questionable on Hollywood of all sites, but Everest could easily make it happen if they play around it safely enough and get the high ground early.
So I've got to say, Tornadoes on paper, they have the comp advantage now. They have Orisa Sigma, which is spam. The one weird thing is that Tracer for that spam, so I expect Mafsy to be that solo member trying to do things in the backline there. I think the Tornadoes are going to have a really good first point hold here with their comp. And I think ALW is going to struggle to push on that Orisa just because of the hard commit to spam by Tornadoes.
Yeah, and the shield burned down so quickly. They just don't have any denial for the amount of DPS. Even cut out in rotation is going to have to take a lot of poke damage, but it's a much slower push than what we saw from the Tornadoes. And even going indoors, get onto point very quickly, but it costs them dearly. Losing both main heals and your secondary DPS. Now main tank goes down. Everest lose that fight as soon as they touch the point.
The Everests don't actually have a way to knock the Tornadoes off of the high ground right now. Some options for them would be the Rein Zarya, and you speed up the stairwell immediately on them and hope you don't lose anybody in rotation. I would say that would be the strategy that they could best utilize. The other strategy is to just clutch and use ultimates, but that's not really a hero pick strategy.
I mean, they at least have ALW swap over to the Rein, which is good, but they're sticking to Chumma's Pump on the D.Va, which might give them that little bit of knockback off the top high ground, but going for the same rotation and a great pull from Pando. Pulls back the heals, but no elimination surprisingly comes from it. Now going up to stairs with hers does cost them both the turret and the immortality build. All out brawl, and surprisingly the Everest get first pick onto Mapsy, but it does end up costing the main tank. Now both supports, all tanks gone. That's the end of the push.
Everest have adapted. I gotta say, I love to see that push. I was like, I think a Reinhardt would help him, and I think you want to get right onto him, and that's exactly what they did. And they were able to sustain all the way up until the Tornadoes were forced to use their ultimates. And there's not really a whole lot you can do if you do the correct rotations, but you just get ulted once you get on the point. But now the Everest have some of their own.
Yeah, so hopefully we can see those built up and used here as the Gravitic Flux comes out from Phoenix. Once again, doesn't lead to elimination, but finally just from poking them down, gets triplet again. One of the first members eliminated again tonight. Now caught in this back corner with no main support means KJ will go down quickly, followed by ALW, and the rest of the Everest team follows suit.
The Everest have got to get in a position to use that Blizzard. They're rotating well. We saw that last fight, and even though the Baptiste was just a little bit slow on that rotation, that was after a whole Sigma ultimate, and nobody died. That is incredibly impressive, especially considering the Everest were moving the whole time through that. I think that this Blizzard will give them the leg up they need, but they've really got to do something about its Gambler on that Zenyatta.
Yeah, and surprisingly, he's usually been the first eliminated. Now the Everest have not been able to capitalize on, so just looking for an opening with so much spam. Has to bring in the immortality field. That's a huge cooldown that they simply can't afford with only 50 seconds remaining. They do get the pulse bomb out, but with the supercharger online, Tornadoes are going to use it immediately. And once again, Mapsy in the back line, rotated too quickly. Triplet was unable to keep up and gets eliminated. But the Blizzard comes out for the Everest to try to keep them in this fight and landing onto multiple members. But after losing ALW, KJ's trying to stay in this fight on the high ground. Will finally get taken down by Mapsy, but Tornadoes not contesting the point, end up losing 2 ticks. Everest trying their hardest, even bring out the amplification matrix a bit too far back, even sticking Panda with the pulse bomb, who charged it very quickly. ALW with the respawns coming back in time with the shatter. Everest have a chance of taking this back.
I think Everest actually have point one. I think they have more than a chance here. It's just a Tracer. And Phoenix.
Ooh, they do end up losing main heals and main support. Her with now Phoenix the only one on point, committing to Gravitic Flux just to demech the D.Va. Everest just throwing members on cart. It's 2-3, 1-3 after all those eliminations. That should be Tornadoes winning Hollywood, and there it is.
Absolutely not. I said, I think the Everest have this, and then immediately after that, they fell apart. No, I think the biggest thing there was, I was like, I think they have this, and then they lost all target focus. They didn't get the elimination on Sigma. They didn't get the elimination on Tracer. They didn't get the elimination on the Zen. that was just chilling around on the outskirts of point, and they fell apart because of that, and everybody else had time to get there.
Yeah, and personally, I still question the attack torp that they just never gave up. Like, yeah, you used the molten core and got no value from it because you either didn't push the high ground and he was by himself, which is how he got eliminated by Mapsy, and his turret was not a big enough threat. They didn't have any aerial for the turret to really gain the value we normally see it. So some questionable decisions on the team comp on the side of the Everest. So Tornadoes are going to take it, which means they're headed to match point for that matter. And possibly final map for Tornadoes will be Busan, the return of control.
I think ALW, I don't think the ball is going to get them the value that they need on Busan. Well, okay, I think it depends on the point. Because if it's on Mecha Base, I think your ball is really going to struggle because Mecha Base is a brawl map, and it is really hard to run ball into a brawl. That is no BM. Again, I cannot state it enough. This is no BM against the way ALW plays ball. There are just certain comps that you can't run a ball into, or a tracer for that matter, and that's what they forced last time.
Yeah, maybe he's just trying to get as much ball play as he can because ball has been banned from the Overwatch 2 beta, having broken it with his grapple hook of late, but unable to tell as we're heading into the fourth and possibly final match of our grand finals. Tornadoes really coming away. Hey, this is only a best of 5, so heading into map 4, Tornadoes are looking to close things out and take their next grand finals champion. They were able to do it in the Overwatch 2 custom servers, but can they do it here in Overwatch 1? They're looking to close out, and I do favor their team comp so far.
I think the Tornadoes, this is one of the maps that you can run ball on. I was talking about how Mecha Base would be hard. This is not Mecha Base. I mean, obviously, this is Shrine, and it's ball is definitely a hero that you can run here just because it's open.
Yeah, but Tornadoes getting first pick onto Triplet is a huge
Yikes.
+1 for their fight, and already ALW having to retreat so far that just leaving his team without a main tank in the fight, trying to cause a little bit of chaos. But after losing KJ, Everest are down 2, down 3, down 4, they're out.
That initial first pick onto the Zenyatta, I think, sent the Everest spiraling because they weren't able to get any picks on the Tornadoes. The Tornadoes knew that they wanted to hard engage, but didn't let them because they knew that they were down one and knew that that was their time to push. I think the Sigma paired with the ball is good for both of these teams because Sigma has point presence that ball usually doesn't have. Like, ball is usually off doing his own thing, and so I think the Sigma really provides that anchor for the team to run around as we see. Looks like this next engagement's going to happen left.
Yeah, Everest playing a little bit tighter together as we have not seen them do as much as they should, but with so much poke coming up from the Tornadoes, and sadly the Rockets hitting that post is sad loss for Bonesaw as he's rotating through the rear, getting a ton of value, able to take down Avian, but it does end up costing 4 members of the Tornadoes with Bonesaw just being pocketed by this Mercy. He is gonna have to go for the retreat here.
I think Bonesaw got individual value on the flank, but because that Soldier 76 left the Everests, KJ was able to go in on the rest of their team because the Soldier couldn't just one-shot Helix them.
Also on top, he had not Doofus behind him the whole time, so that's one less support.
Yep.
You have to help your backline. So Tornadoes playing very split. Once again, cost them dearly. Could be a communication issue on their side. But with a great hack onto Mapsy, that's huge +1 for the Everest. Even denying the Pulse Bomb. Now the mines coming out from ALW was probably a bit of an overcommitment as both he and KJ get eliminated. So the Everest are going to try to stay in this fight with both support ultimates coming out. So the Tornadoes are going to answer it with their own mines and both their own support ultimates. Huge ultimates being committed here from both sides as the point is still in the Everest control. It still will go in the side of the Tornadoes out of there now, +4 from the visor coming out from Bonesaw.
I think either the Transcendence or the Brig ultimate would have helped sustain through that Soldier ultimate. You talked about an overcommit, and there is really no bigger overcommit than Transcendence Rally, just right next to each other. I think support communication fell apart in that moment, and that's unfortunate, but still, this is an even fight. They can still take this back.
Yeah, gonna end up trading 1 for 1. Just kidding, 1 for 2 as Mapsy even commits the Pulse Bomb to get the elimination onto Chama's Fum after losing Panda Squad. Everest are gonna have to play much slower here because that EMP is a game changer if they can have a solid team push and not lose a member in rotations.
I think Bonesaw has been getting phenomenal value on these flanks, with the exception of the first one that they did. Other than that, they've forced the Everest to respond, and the Everest are really getting caught off guard because they never know where the soldier's going to come from.
Big pick onto Gambler, onto that Zenyatta should send Tornadoes a little bit into defensive mode, especially now with Panda Squad able to get the elimination against Mabsy +2 in this fight, and the EMP coming out able to land onto 2 members should be the point for the Everest. A great team fight for them.
And it looks like Bonesaw is just gonna, no, they're gonna take the health back. That's just a little bit more ult charge for them at this point. I don't think Bonesaw is going to get out of this as we full reset. I would like to see maybe the Mercy swapped over to the Brig. That was what I was going to highlight there. I think that Mercy is not getting a ton of value damage boosting Bonesaw and not getting a ton of value anywhere else either, just because Bonesaw typically doesn't play with the team.
Yeah, so now with Phoenix actually being the first one eliminated, ALW is going to capitalize and eliminate Bonesaw. The Gravitic Flex coming out from Panda doesn't get the value that they wanted. And Everest with the same communication issue of both support ultimates at the same time. And even Gambler just getting knocked off the edge means the Everest hold on to this point could be the end if the Tornadoes don't recontest in time, and finally they recognize that they need to be on the point. But with the double hack coming out from Panda Squad, might be the fight over as they're able to eliminate Phoenix. Panda Squad will be the cost for it, but no main tank. Everest are even in this fight. Now +1 with the elimination coming out onto Bonesaw. That's huge pressure eliminated that the Tornadoes were relying on. Now it's only the remaining of not Doomfist of that Brig trying to hold part, brings out both the Transcendence to keep his teammates alive and allows time for Phoenix to come back. But Mapsy will be able to capitalize on that and eliminate Triplet. Now Everest down one, make sure to get the refrags and take down both the Wrecking Ball and the Zenyatta, and we'll be able to take control.
That EMP kind of like forced the members of the Tornadoes off the point, which once again, they just left the point. I mean, there's not a ton you can do if you're EMP'd and against a full 6 and are a squishy, but it is much more honorable to die on the point and say, at least I tried, rather than just back off and leave it 99 to 99 and give up the fight. On Downtown, it doesn't look like anybody's trying to play the Widowmaker game, which is actually something that's pretty big on Downtown and we've seen get some huge value, but both teams have the Sombra. Monkey gives his team more overall support than the Ball does as ALW, but Ball can cause more disruption.
Yeah, so as the team fight begins, you can already hear a lot of exchange coming out from ALW trying to get as much poke as he can. They're probably looking to pick off Gambler very early on, or at least not Doomfist. Eliminating those supports can give them such an edge. But Tornadoes have a lot of sustain from Bonesaw, as already Triplet and Avian. That's no supports for the Everest. That's the end of their push with a huge play coming out from the tanks of the Tornadoes.
The Everest got on the point first, but then immediately after that, the Tornadoes went in on them as a full 6, and that's what we want to see from the Tornadoes. The Tornadoes have been doing a lot of things individually, but I feel like that fight, they really collapsed as a team, and it ended up winning them the fight. The interesting pick, I think, is the Reaper. I think against this comp, that is a very boom or bust pick, because, right, if the Ball gets in your face, or if the Sigma gets in your face, Reaper's gonna get huge value there. But if the Ball just stays out of your range, you're effectively useless.
Or he just goes for the flank and gets the elimination of the Triplet, which means the Everest are already having to reset. They do at least get the pick on the Gambler, but they immediately lose their other support and secondary tank, which means Tornadoes will maintain the point.
ALW is doing
he got it from the behind.
He's doing good disruption on the Ball, and we see ALW and KJ are the ones that ended up flipping this. ALW and KJ are on one page, and then everybody else for the Everest is on the other. And I think if those two separate playstyles came together, I think the Everest would be doing much better.
KJ even getting his pulse bomb eaten and Boneside, able to at least pick up one, trading out his Death Blossom for the Brig, which is not great value, but KJ finally playing with his team is able to get a triple. That should be the point for the Everest, but the Tornadoes answer with a huge 3-man EMP. But the Everest are still able to cap the point as they made the rotation. As Mapsy is able to pick up a double as ALW trades out. Oh, taking down now Doofus, KJ taking down Ando, now Phoenix. It's just back and forth. But the Everest are currently down 2 members, just trying to throw their bodies on the cart, trying to at least get even percentage. Now the Primal Rage Monkey coming out. Panda Squad might be looking to EMP here, but with the reset like that, they're going to have to save it for next fight.
I'm not going to lie, Mapsy, I did not think that you could do it. Your team was down 3, and then you popped EMP, and then proceeded to get the triple kill yourself, and just kept hacking members onto point. And I think Mapsy is a big reason why the Tornadoes were able to flip that point. But KJ and ALW, in particular, really stalled it out for a long time.
The Everest not really having that target prioritization and able to collapse on what they need. Able to get the card back. But once again, the rest of their backline gets taken down by Phoenix. Everest just playing so split here has costed them multiple team fights. Yes, you get percentage on point, but you're just throwing your bodies at this point because your whole back line's dead.
I think ALW and KJ, they're getting value by flipping the point and forcing the Tornadoes to respond to them. But I don't actually think that's the value they need to be getting right now. I think they need to play with their team. I would love to see KJ pop out with a Cassidy. I don't think the Tornadoes would be ready for it. And I think all of their members are vulnerable to a Cole Cassidy. And I think even a Reinhardt would help.
Yeah, Everest need to go for a team comp swamp right now because the way they've been playing has been so split. Now opening up with the Gravitic Flux, but no members near the point just yet. Now the EMP coming out onto multiple members for both sides. A 4-man EMP with both supports. Once again, miscommunication from the supports using both ults at the same time do not complement each other well. And an amazing Death Blossom had the potential, but the Everest were able to collapse and the Everest swing the fight.
I wonder if it's intentional at this point, just because we've seen so many of those double support ultimates come out. Like, it's always the Zenyatta and always the Brig ultimate. But the Zenyatta ultimate has the sustain that you need to get through that. The Brig ultimate doesn't actually, like, add a ton to that other than armor. And the armor can be added after the Transcendence is already done if you'd really like to coordinate both of those.
So Everest, even with questionable plays from us, have been working out for them, but it won't work out anymore as both supports get eliminated first. Bone Cell will be the cost there, but Tornadoes should be able to take this here with an elimination on the Chumbus Bump as well. Now Panda Squad even falling. ALW not having a presence on point. Losing that main tank has costed the Everest. With the self-destruct able to zone him out for that much more time. ALW is already down to half HP. Now finally pushing on the point with the mines. Immediately has to retreat, and with the hacked health pack, can't get any value from there. So the Primal Rage and Coalescence will come out from the Tornadoes to keep their teammates alive. But with the elimination of the triplet and ALW finally going down, this should be map number 2 of control for the Tornadoes.
ALW looked for 2 separate health packs and was unable to find either of them there on that last fight. I think the Everests, so a 2-4 split is something that can be run in really high levels of play if your communication is on point and if everybody agrees to that. I think the 2-4 split, I think the 2 of KJ and ALW, I think they were communicating. I think they were doing things together, and I think they were on the same targets. I do not think the remaining 4 members of the team were prepared to be effectively down 2, because as Sigma, you can't really push in with your 4 members that are anchored around you. You can't push in with them unless your Tracer and your Ball get value, and it felt like a lot of the times the Sigma would be trying to go in a little bit prematurely just before those eliminations came out, which is why that split doesn't work.
So now both teams finally going to go for a comp swap over to the Brawl, as this is Mecha Base, as you touched on at the start of this round. So Triplet already falling very low, tries for once to not be first elimination, and that's exactly what they needed to happen, getting the elimination onto Mapsy, but trading out for KJ as Phoenix has been able to take down ALW. There goes Triplet. That is the end of the Everest. The Tornadoes just need to remember to cap the point.
Oh, Bonesaw, you did work on that Symmetra. Not necessarily in the kill feed, but there was a lot of damage that was coming out from that level 3 beam that just stopped the Everest from being able to push. But at this point, because that fight didn't go on, that fight went on just barely long enough for Phoenix Phoenix to get the shatter, so we expect him to use that as soon as the Everest try to push past this doorway.
Yeah, hopefully the Tornadoes have the communication to be screaming to burn down the Rhine Shield. And there's the shatter. This doesn't land onto anyone, sadly. Instead, the May is just going to be there with the freeze. So not Doomfist is going to have to compensate and bring out the Amplification Matrix, which will swing the fight in their favor as they continue their aggression forward, eliminating the last few stragglers of the Everests.
I don't know why the Everest rotated back there. We saw the Rhine charge and we saw other people try to like follow the Rhine back into spawn. The shatter was committed and didn't actually land onto anybody, but then the Everests ran away back into their spawn and were picked in that rotation. And I think that's the biggest thing that hurt them before, but now the Everests have the ultimate advantage, so I expect them to be aggressive this next fight.
Yeah, Blizzard coming online with both the Deadeye and Amplification Matrix already there, but with the loss of ALW so early on, Bonesaw a bit of an overcommit with the wall coming out, I would think, because you were already +3 by the time that came out.
Did it right in the face of the Deadeye too, so I actually don't think it's an overcommit. I think it was just risky because he could have popped that Deadeye at any point and just immediately like stopped Bonesaw from existing. But Bonesaw was luckily able to get the wall off so the Deadeye didn't get value. But wall is a really risky ultimate to use responsibly. However, Blizzard going in for the Tornadoes, I expect them to do it either in this room or right as the Everest push out.
Yeah, great wall and Amplification Matrix from the Tornadoes, but with the self-destruct and the Blizzard coming out, that's big, denying the push from the Everest, already losing both DPS to it as well. Well, Everest just playing so split as the 1v1 between the May and the Bat. Baptiste will go the way of Mapsia as Gambler fighting on point is able to get the elimination on the ALW because tanks just kept pushing. They left their whole team behind.
And I do not actually think that the Everest will be able to flip this, even as they have 4 members in fight against the 4 members of the Tornadoes here, just because the Tornadoes have the more advantageous brawl comp, and the Everests don't have, actually no, their Monkey has rejoined the fight.
But losing Triplet like that, and now both supports out of the fight, Everest should lose it here, which means the Tornadoes will be the crowning Grand Finals champions. They were able to do it in Overwatch 2. Now they're able to do it in Overwatch 1. They had a rough start, but they brought it back after some communication issues for sure, but they brought it back.
I think this is the closest match we've seen of the Everest and the Tornadoes. I mean, usually it's the Tornadoes not even giving up a map. I think the Everests are definitely improving, and I think their communication and rotations are the thing that's improving, but they still have a lot of room for work, as this 3-1 score would tell you.
Well, if you want to be seen by expert college recruiters, talk directly to esports industry insiders like pro athletes, team general managers, and game producers, then join the club. Esports Tower players get insider access to industry insights with our featured rumbles. Recruiters are taking notice too. It's a great way to score exposure if you're looking to start your path to pro or land a collegiate scholarship. So make sure to check them out at esportstower.com. Well, this is not the end of the night just yet. We still do have our last but not least final show match with the return of the Fire Islands taking on the Monsoons. So make sure to stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this break.
We're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day. We're going to save families from disaster and feed those left in the cold. We invite you to join us. The next greatest generation is now.
Growing up in Idaho, we have certain rules we live by. First rule, camouflage never goes out of style. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by.
A rogue virus. No jobs. Sky-high tuition debt. Life is trying to put our generation on the sidelines. But we refuse to just sit back and watch it pass us by. Instead, watch us fly ahead. Watch us overcome anything. Watch us rise. Watch us change our world. Watch us become the next greatest generation.
Growing up in Riggins, we have certain rules we live by. Look both ways before crossing the street. Fishing stories get better the more you tell them. Small town life makes your life anything but small. Never work alone when you go hunting. And always buckle up. Seatbelts save lives. That's a rule we can all live by.
And welcome back into this broadcast of the Esports Tower Rumble in Overwatch. We are broadcasting it here from the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena, and we just saw the Tornadoes claim the top spot in the Week 4 Rumble. But before we finish tonight out, we do have a show match between some of the Esports Tower teams that we have not seen in a while, the Fire Islands and the Monsoons. I'm your host, Brennan Bear. Joining with me to call all the action is Colby D'Angelo Alloway, and this final show match will be the return of Havana. So what are you hoping to see from these old returning teams after just seeing the grand finals?
I think a close hold is always beneficial. I think it would be beneficial to both of these teams. And again, just as a reminder, the point of a close hold is you want to get like 30 seconds off the clock, right? You want to like try to win one fight, and that's good. If you get 2 fights, if you get a minute, that's great. If you get a minute 30 off the clock, that's excellent. And anything past that is almost impossible and will usually guarantee you a complete first point hold. And the idea of a close hold is you want a clean wipe on cart. Nobody really wants to get away from that fight because usually you can't. And because if you all clean wipe, you get back for the second fight and whole corner, where most teams already do anyway. So you're not actually losing any distance or holding potential.
So some great pointers from our Overwatch expert, but we have one more who wants to give you any tips that we can, and we give those through Doc's Keys to the Game. In Overwatch, that's to never take a fair fight, but what does that mean? Take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared, and of course, tempo, tempo, tempo. And these are presented today by the Esports Tower, where you can scroll pro advice at esportstower.com, improve your game sense, improve your team play, and improve your performance under pressure. You'll get matched with great players and professional coaches to help you rank up. So we're ready to jump into our last matchup of the night with the Fire Islands and the Monsoons facing off. Two teams we have not seen in a long time. Fire Islands really did struggle. They were a team that we saw a lot of growth in, so maybe they're coming back to show us everything they've learned. What is the number one thing you want to see from each of these teams? You already mentioned the close holds, and going over to Havana, are you preferring close holds or maybe a quick swap after they have it to snipers?
I do like the close hold. I think the swap to the snipers is something that you can definitely run. I mean, you can't exactly run close hold heroes the rest of Havana. I mean, you can, it's just not necessarily optimal, and we do see the close hold coming out here. I would expect if they lose this first point and don't have Blizzard, I would expect them to swap off the Mei almost immediately here on defense.
So some things to hopefully look forward to, but the attackers on the side of the Monsoons with Fire Islands on the defense first. Seems a return of some familiar faces that we have not seen in a long time, as C Squared actually gets eliminated first by Lucky Chew, a huge pick for the Fire Islands.
Very scary when you're the Baptiste and you end up in front of your Orisa, and that elimination will always come out. It looks like they're trying to go the other side, which is usually how these work. You kind of like rotate which door you come out of and hope to catch them off guard like that.
Yeah, BBQ with a great pick onto Dragon Shadow should give them that little leg up since they have the spawn advantage. Monsoons can hopefully start leaving their spawn doors as we swap over to Sunky, who's just dealing with a diva in his face. Trying to get that pick onto the Lucio at the back, but Law with a great roll is going to be able to land that nice clean headshot onto Sunky and show him how it's done to deny that line of sight. So now Fire Islands looking to set up with this Deadeye, and immediately as soon as I say it comes out, only going to be able to land onto the Sigma, focused out on that Immortality field, and now a great shatter landing onto 3 members. Fire Islands are going to be able to capitalize, taking down both tanks. Will be the cost of Lucky Chew with that amplification matrix used as well. Monsoons can come back in this fight much quicker. Fire Islands don't have a tank.
And they have to play a little bit less aggressive because of that. They don't have the protection in the middle of the fight that they would usually have with that Reinhardt. So you can see them falling back to cart as soon as the members of the Monsoons come in to try to take this fight.
Yeah, Monsoon's also playing very split, only having the 1 DPS behind, whereas we saw the Cole Cassidy on the far left. Finally, Sunky's able to get that revenge onto Halal. Expect this 1v1 to be consistent throughout this matchup between those 2 players, but Monsoon's having 5 ultimates built up. Haven't needed them yet, but I expect them to be used for this coming T-fight as 3 members of the Fire Islands get split up.
There it is. There's that ultimate, just like you were talking about. The Dragon Strike is going to come out and get that first elimination, and Sungy's following it up.
Yeah, no tanks, no May to remain. The cost of the Fire Islands with a bit of miscommunication, they went charging in and left the remaining of the Cole Cassidy, the Baptiste, and the Lucio behind, which means the Monsoons might be able to get this last point if Fire Islands can regroup and recontest. They just have to deal with both the Deadeye, the Amplification Matrix, and the Gravitic Flux.
If we go into fight here, that is fight starting with the Blizzard.
Yeah, able to deny the Amplification Matrix, but it will end up costing them BBQ and Waffle. So Monsoon's going to have to reset after losing 4 members.
And we expect the Fire Islands, who are still on defense here, that Amplification Matrix coupled with that Deadeye, that can take them a lot of space, especially around this middle, very, very long sightlines as the Monsoons will approach this corner. I expect that to be used early before the Monsoons can engage. Yeah. What are they doing? They're sneaking.
I mean, as long as they're not scouted out. Seems like they haven't been either, really, but they're going to... Oh, they almost backdoored the checkpoint, so Fire Islands have to scramble to get back in time as Nox on that Moira almost were able to get the checkpoint in time with only 45 seconds remaining and a huge self-destruct coming out from Radius Boss onto C Squared. No supports remaining, even DPS and tank goes down. Oh, that's a team wipe for the Fire Islands.
And because they did that sneaky whatever that was, the Amplification Matrix Deadeye combo wasn't able to come out just straight down main, so I expect Deadeye to be used maybe... It looks like he wants to do something cheeky with it right now. That's what that positioning tells me in the closet.
I'm surprised he hasn't gone for the high ground at least to have that little bit of advantage. Gets a little bit of poke onto Waffle, but it's going to be the battle of the Deadeye. Ooh! Sunky denies the Deadeye play, and a huge Gravitic Flux is going to come out for the Monsoons, which forces out the sound barrier from Delirious to keep his teammates alive. And it's a brawl on cart after losing main tank. Fire Islands having to play a little bit further back, able to take down main heals, but now that's no tanks for the Fire Islands. This should be the Monsoons fight after committing that Supercharger to get the eliminations. That should be the checkpoint.
And I think the Fire Islands really didn't hold their corner. I think they were down 1, and that caused them to back up almost too far, even being down 1, and they gave up a lot of space that they didn't necessarily have to. You need to give up a little bit, but you're still Reinhardt walking into Orisa Sigma. You didn't have to back out that far.
Yeah, and he even has the Shatter online as well to utilize with a great send going on to the Cole Cassidy. Lucky Chew able to pick that up. Quickly followed by Lol, taking down on secondary tank. Now main heals down, no tanks remaining. Fire Islands hold them at the door.
I'm glad Lucky Shoe didn't commit the chatter because obviously they didn't need it to win that fight. But I saw them all lined up there, and I saw that Orisa, and I was like, he's going to shatter, and it's going to be big. And then he didn't. Demonstrated much more patience than I have.
Yeah, just proof of how much the Fire Islands team has grown. Last time we saw them were all the way in the Winter Rumble, and they've improved immensely, taking on the Monsoons, who've had they came out the gates very strong early on, but have had an issue so far going up against Fire Islands, it seems.
I think Lol was way too aggressive there. He didn't have the help he needed, especially going against that Hanzo. He's going to get you out every time. His ultimates are committed to engage this fight.
Yeah, Nox brings out the Coalescence to keep his teammates alive. Radius Boss falling very low, forcing Lucky Chu to back off, but he's looking for that shadow. That's why he's playing so far forward, which makes him drop down to the 100 HP and lands onto 3 members. Gonna go in with the charge even through the Immortality field to get the elimination. That's main tank for main tank right now. Still even in this fight, but finally Shroomy will be able to even the odds and take down BBQ, quickly followed by Lol. So both no tanks and 1 DPS down. Monsoons reset.
If you're a Reinhardt and you get a big shatter like that, pinning is actually the worst thing you can do because you can just swing your hammer, send the fire strike, and get much more damage onto much more people than that individual elimination. And it doesn't make you forcefully, positionally compromise yourself, because that is what ended up killing Lucky Chu there. They just charged into the enemy team, and like, what did you expect them to do? Like, not turn and look at you? So Reinhardt's, when you shatter, pinning is actually the least amount of damage and least amount of eliminations that you're going to get.
It's usually that last-ditch effort if you already used the Flame Strike, hit a couple people with the swings. But Lol with actually the backdoor Deadeye gets a ton of damage in, but does not secure any elimination. So instead, Shroomy's going to pick that up for him, taking out DPS. Now, no DPS remaining, with Radius Boss finishing it off with a great 2-man self-destruct, with main heals going down, tanks going down. That should be round 1 for the Fire Islands with a pretty strong hold in point 2.
So this is difficult, but winnable for the next defending team here, because point 2 is a really solid defense. However, because of how far they were able to push it, this necessitates a close hold on defense, because that first defensive close hold got so much value. So whoever's on defense, if they hold the back corner, I don't expect it to go their way.
So Fire Islands, in a last-ditch effort, are going to have to play some amazing attack. So do you think Monsoons go for close hold or play a bit further back, having already seen them run that Orisa Sigma?
I think the Monsoons need to close hold here. I mean, like I just said, that back corner, you're just giving up so much free space, and because of the phenomenal close hold that happened before that, it necessitates they do the same thing, because they didn't even get to the midway point of point 2, right? So you need as many holds as you can possibly get in a relatively short distance.
Seems Monsoons with their own strat are also sticking to the Rhine Diva with, I believe that is the Mei and Tracer, actually. So hopefully we don't see a case of last match of playing maybe a bit too split of the 2 and 4 split. So Fire Islands have shown that they have a lot stronger team play, but Monsoons holding much further back as well.
I think that distance, it looks like they're going for the close hold, and I think that's great. I think if they just gave up that space, I think it would have been as close as just giving up the map.
Yeah, running a Reaper as well. I'm surprised they're playing as far back as they are, maybe trying to wait for Waffleman to get that value, but Fire Island's going with a solid engage, looking for that Reinhardt who played a little bit too forward, and already Monsoon's giving up so much space.
They haven't even gotten anybody eliminated yet, but they're still just backing all the way up into this corner, and I think that tendency to give up space for the Monsoons, that might lose them Havana, depending on how this fight goes.
I mean, they've already made huge strides for the Fire Islands in time-wise, and still no elimination has come out of this. Huge pressure being applied to Sunky. Even Radius Boss with 100 HP will finally lose the mech, but Lol will get first blood onto Waffle on that high ground. That denies the artillery piece to get rid of any barriers. But BBQ with the first ultimate of that Gravitic Flux charged so quickly that Shroomy doesn't even need to answer with his Amplification Matrix after losing Radius Boss. Fire Islands are just going to wait and use up their time.
I was very worried for the Monsoons there, just because I expected them to keep backing up, but it looks like their plan overall was to just back up until they got ultimates, and it did work for them, but they've still given up a lot of space to this Reinhardt who can just go in and shatter.
Yeah, the solo Shatter even gets the elimination here against BBQ as the Immortality Field just came out too late. So Lol will end up trading out for Waffle as Dragon Shadow comes back and gets both the eliminations at the DPS, but now Shroomy even able to pick up secondary heals. That might be point number 2 and with how staggered the Monsoons are.
I think they have a recontest, but I think they're in a really difficult position because they need to set up second point if they want a big hold, but they also can't afford to give up this space with 2 minutes and 13 seconds remaining, so they're taking the fight.
Yeah, starting off with the tire, unable to get any value there as only the tanks were on cart. So both DPS will be able to pick up the Junkrat and the Rhine as the Death Blossom comes out, but once again, doesn't land on anybody. Fire Island's playing very tightly, able to just deny anything the Monsoons throw at them, and that's the checkpoint.
And because the Monsoons lost that fight, they're going to have difficulty setting up second point. The Fire Islands want to push now to stop the Monsoons from setting up, because if they stop the Monsoons from setting up, they easy win the map.
Yeah, and even with the ultimate advantage in the Monsoons' favor, they need to try to regroup, but look how much space the Fire Islands are taking right now. So the Pulse Bomb did come out from LOL, landing onto BBQ, but did not have the DPS to secure the elimination. Sunky even teleporting right in their face, gets eliminated promptly, as he should. That was a very ballsy play coming out from the Reaper, and Monsoons, being down a member, are running out of time.
I think the Fire Islands know how to take space and the Monsoons don't. And this next fight is the Monsoons' last-ditch effort to win this best-of-1 show match there.
There's a good pick onto LOL with Waffleman only having about 1 HP remaining as the Gravitic Flux comes out from BBQ for the second time, but no one's there to follow it up as finally Shadow Soul goes right underneath for the Shatter and gets blizzard and frozen. And as well as the sound barrier to try to keep him alive in the amplification matrix. Monsoons threw everything they had, but Sunky was not there in time. And as he was one of the last eliminations, that should be the best-of-1 show match for the Fire Islands.
So I see the logic in giving them space until you can charge your ultimates and win the fight, but you can't do that. I mean, we just saw they took that with about 2 minutes remaining because the Monsoons gave up too much space and didn't get that time stall.
Yeah, so Fire Islands having really grown as a team. That was probably their best showing we've ever seen from that. And Monsoons still have a lot to learn, but had good moments for sure. Able to win a couple of team fights. So good showing from both sides. Final thoughts?
I think my final thoughts, I think the Monsoons were doing everything together. So like when they gave up space, they all rotated together and backed up. And I think that shows very good team coordination. I just think the person who made that call, I think it was the wrong thing to do altogether. But I will say that's typically better than doing the wrong thing separately.
So with a ton of Overwatch being played, a best of 3, best of 5, now a best of 1, who is your go-to for player of the game? Because we've seen a lot of highlighted players, notably ALW, Bonesaw, even Phoenix Wrong being the front line for the Tornadoes.
So I think Bonesaw is always the safe bet, so they always deserve at least mentioning in these player of the game discussions just because it makes a lot of sense. I would specifically like to highlight KJ because even though they didn't swap to anything other than the Tracer, they got a lot of Tracer value, and they were always there with their ball. And while I don't think that 4-2 split was always the most beneficial thing for the team, I think KJ was definitely doing the best they could to help their other flanker in that split.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see who the player of the game might be as we take a moment to... Also, I'd like to highlight both of the support players for the Tornadoes. It was Gambler really struggled at the beginning, but once he got onto the Zenyatta, performed better, as we saw on the Rialto match of he was holding the high ground. The Brig was by herself and managed to stay alive, but that was also an issue of the Everest not pushing her. So they had each of their moments, but also, of course, not Doomfist has always been a highlighted member. On the side of the Everest, their supports were okay. They didn't really shine as great as the Tornadoes, even though the Tornadoes did come out with the win. I mean, the Everest still put up a fight, especially against in that first best of 3 where they had such a commanding lead. So I would almost want to give it to ALW as well, just because you mentioned KJ, but it was the Wombo Combo team, so it could really go to either player of that. But ALW, I think would get it if he had swapped off the ball sooner.
I think so too. I think ALW, of the two of them, actually like swapped over to other things sometimes, just not necessarily when the ball, even though he swapped to other things on other maps, like the map switching was what made ALW swap instead of the comp not working.
Well, as we take a look to see, it will be, of course, Bonesaw. He has been the quintessential player to keep an eye on and the most requested by every college in the world. So Bonesaw is going to go ahead and be our player of the game, which is brought to us by the Idaho Central Credit Union, who believes a great player makes a team more successful, just like Idaho Central's helping members achieve financial success. Bonesaw is going to be the Idaho Central Credit Union player of the game. As we get ready to close out tonight, we want to give a huge congratulations to all of our teams for a very exciting Week 4 Spring Overwatch Rumble. The Tornadoes seem to prove that they're the team to beat in Overwatch 1 with a 3-1 win over the Everest in the Grand Finals. It's interesting to see if anyone can take them down. Everest have seemed to be the closest one, able to at least take a map off of them. But you want to make sure to join us next week on Tuesday, 6 p.m. EST for our Week 5 Rumble, which will be played on the Overwatch 2 beta. You don't want to miss it, so we will go ahead and close out tonight with the top 5 presented by the Idaho Army National Guard, who invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time. More than 10 jobs offering a $20,000 sign-on bonus and your degree of choice paid for. The Idaho Army National Guard is the best team to join out there. And make sure to reach out to them on Twitch at iGuard Gaming, and have a good night. But they lose it as quickly as she uses it. But with the rest of the Tornadoes following suit, they're able to get the elimination onto both tanks and the DPS and both supports. That's the one remaining. That is Panda Squad of that May. Finally, the Tornadoes are able to win a team fight on second point.
But they're up 1 now, so now's the time to be aggressive.
Yeah, ALW is being that aggressive forward tank and gets caught out with that flashbang. Things definitely cost the Everest, but they're going to bring out the Pacific Flux as well as the sights to take down Mango. That's huge, taking down main heals. Now both supports are down, and Illusion, Panda Squad getting in the backline, will finally get taken down by Joe. The Tornadoes are going to answer it with their own minds and both their own support ultimates. Huge ultimates being committed here from both sides, as the point is still in the Everest control. It still will go in the side of the Tornadoes out there now, +4 from the visor coming out from Bonesaw.
I think either the Transcendent
out for that Blizzard to get it eaten up, so Cage is going to open it up with the dive, unable to find anybody, so not Doomfist going to bring out the Amplification Matrix, but quickly the Tornadoes give up the high ground, unable to utilize that ultimate. Instead, they're just going to win the 1v1s, being +2 in this fight. Everest are going to have to probably reset here, especially after a huge death dive with the help of that rally. A great set jump. Surprised he did not commit the mines there with how stacked up they were. So instead, the elimination onto ALW will be huge for the Tornadoes with no main tank remaining. Finally, the mines will come out directly onto Cart and get the elimination on to secondary tank. No supports remaining. No